Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating new study straight out of the journal Science Advances. It tackles a massive, society-altering question for our digital age. Does artificial intelligence actually make humans more creative, or is it just turning our collective ideas into a single, homogenized monolith? Let's get right into it. Here is the core paradox we're looking at. Generative AI gets framed as this magical tool, right? A brilliant springboard that launches entirely new avenues of thought. But on the flip side, there is a very real fear that it might actually act as an anchor, restricting human expression down to a narrow set of predictable, machine-learned patterns. Section 1. The microfiction experiment. So how do researchers actually go about testing something as abstract as a creative paradox? Well, by using highly controlled parameters. They brought in nearly 300 writers and gave them a very specific task: write a microstory, exactly 8 sentences long, targeted at a young adult audience. The writers could choose from adventurous topics like an open sea journey or a jungle expedition. And these strict constraints were absolutely crucial because they meant the researchers could measure creative variations with incredible accuracy. To isolate the exact effect of the AI, these writers were randomly assigned to one of 3 distinct conditions. First up, a human-only baseline with 0 assistance. Second, a group given exactly 1 AI-generated idea to start. And third, a group given 5 AI ideas to choose from. Now, these ideas were just simple 3-sentence starting prompts generated by OpenAI's GPT-4. And here is a wild stat. When given the mere option to use the AI tool for a starting idea, an overwhelming 88.4% of participants took it. Almost everyone jumped at the chance. It turns out, human beings are naturally drawn to tools that make a blank page less intimidating. It's almost like having a GPS for writer's block. But how do we actually judge if these stories are creative? For this study, creativity was evaluated on 2 distinct fronts. First, novelty, meaning originality and rarity. And second, usefulness, which in this specific publishing context basically meant appropriateness for the audience and the feasibility of it becoming a real book. 600 independent evaluators read and judged these stories, completely blind to who used AI and who didn't. Section 2, Leveling the Creative Field. With all the evaluations in, the researchers uncovered their first major finding. To understand the impact, the writers first took what's called a divergent association task, essentially a word game to measure their natural baseline creativity. And the results were striking. The naturally high creativity writers, they actually saw very little boost from the AI assistance. Their stories were already highly rated. But the less naturally creative writers, they experienced massive improvements across the board. The AI acted as a profound equalizer. Actually, let's look at the exact numbers. For the less creative writers who had access to 5 AI ideas, the quality of their work absolutely skyrocketed. Novelty jumped by 10.7%, usefulness by 11.5%, and the stories were rated a staggering 26.6% better written. Access to AI effectively leveled the playing field entirely, making their performance basically indistinguishable from the naturally gifted writers. So the takeaway here is that AI acts as an incredible creative springboard. On a purely individual level, it is a phenomenal tool. It launches new, useful, and better written ideas, especially for those who really struggle to find that initial spark. Individually speaking, the writers were highly successful. Section 3, The Cost of Similarity. But here is the narrative plot twist of the research. What happens to the aggregate output of society when these tools become the norm? This brings our focus to collective diversity. That means the vibrant variety, the uniqueness, and the structural variance of ideas produced by a society as a whole. To test this, the researchers used objective text algorithms to measure just how mathematically alike the final stories were to one another across the different groups. And the data revealed a hidden cost. Stories written with just 1 AI idea were nearly 10.7% more similar to other stories in that exact same condition compared to the human-only baseline. The weird, unique variance between the stories shrank dramatically. Yes, they were better written, but they were all starting to sound exactly the same. So instead of a springboard, in the aggregate, AI actually acts as a creative anchor. Writers naturally clung to the AI starting points. In fact, their final stories were roughly 5% closer to the exact AI prompt itself. The writers definitely improved their individual scores, but they all gravitated toward the exact same AI-generated center. The researchers summarized this perfectly with a pretty stark warning. They noted that these results point to an increase in individual creativity at the risk of losing collective novelty. So while the stories were evaluated as better written, they lost the weird, wonderful, and messy variations that can really only come from unaided, divergent human minds. Section 4. A modern social dilemma. This is no longer just about writing short microstories. It's a massive philosophical challenge regarding our future relationship with these incredibly powerful digital tools. We're looking at a classic social dilemma. That's a situation where individuals act in their own best interest to achieve a personal benefit, but ultimately harm the collective group. It's the tragedy of the commons. And as the researchers point out, it applies perfectly to generative AI and human creativity. Let's walk through exactly how this dilemma functions mechanically. Individuals are highly incentivized to use AI, right? Because it makes their own work better and more useful. But as individual quality goes up, collective novelty and variance spiral downward. If an entire industry, like publishing, art, or marketing, fully embraces AI-inspired work, society as a whole receives a much narrower, homogenized scope of content. Which leaves a lingering, deeply provocative question for all of us to consider. If everyone acts in their own best interest to use AI, does society ultimately lose the vibrant diversity of human expression? It's a profound thought to end this explainer on, really highlighting the delicate balance between utilizing new technological springboards and preserving the unpredictable magic of the collective human spark.